we're going to move on to the music finally, because I just really want to talk about, one of the things that I've really researched this quite a bit on Cholo Love, and I did talk to Eddie about it. I've talked to a couple other people about it that are in the music industry, about Cholo Love and the fact that he released 3 different versions. I was just talking to a friend of mine last night who I went out to dinner with, who is he recorded with Michael Ronstadt, who is Linda Ronstadt's nephew. And, we were talking about Cholo Love and the fact that he released 3 different versions and whether that's ever been done before. And it was funny because he brought up the same thing I brought up 2 weeks ago in our podcast, is that he really has this Grateful Dead vibe, right? Like, he records these kind of different versions of all this music, and in concert he does this a lot. He'll just change the words. And I try to find out, if he knew of anybody that's ever released 3 versions of a song, and he said no, not that he knows of. So, it just led me to all these different thoughts about what is a concert with Alejandro going to be like once he has 3 to 5 different versions of every song. You literally could go to a concert and it would never be the same twice.
I just heard a version of Out Loud that had instruments and percussion. He's changed up Millennial Love and kind of made it into a pop song. I absolutely love that.
I just want to say that, again, this podcast should just be called Steven Compares Alejandro to Kanye for 20 minutes. But actually, Kanye West re-released his Saint Pablo, or his Life of Pablo album 4 different times in the course of 2 months, where he took away instruments, he brought them back. Again, brings me all back to the fact that I do see that in Alejandro, which I like, because I think musical geniuses are never satisfied with their final product. And so he feels that even though it's released, it's okay. I'm just going to switch it up and re-release it, or I'm going to make a new version and re-release it. So, I think his live concerts... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so artists have done that. So they have released a song and then redid it. Eric Clapton did it with Lola. Is it Lola? Whatever it is. Layla. He did that with Layla. He had the fast version. Then a couple years later, he released the acoustic version. People have done that. What people haven't done is released an R&B version, a piano version, and a dance version all on the same day.
You know what, that just sounds like an Alejandro thing. It sounds like when you're going through a moment where you're like, I'm going to upload this song. What if I don't like it? Okay, I'll upload this one too. But I'm not sure. Let me put this one up too. Okay, that's it. That's the one. But I do think that does make his concerts exciting, and it means that his set lists don't always have to be the same. And I think that there's something special about that, because in this modern day where every time you go somewhere, everyone's recording everything on their cell phone, which I understand, there's a point for that. I do think you miss a little bit of it when you're not watching it in the moment. Mm-hmm. But it just means that Alejandro could have a different set list for every show, so you never quite know what you're going to get. And I think that's really the more important thing there. I also like the fact that he puts out different versions because, like we've talked about numerous times on this podcast already, Alejandro is not a one genre type of artist. He's not in a box, and he doesn't have one specific sound. He really is capable of just so much musically. I kind of like the idea of being able to hear 3 different versions of a song I like, because then I could it's like choose your own adventure. Which version of Alejandro do I like the best? Okay, I'm going to roll with this.
Exactly. I can't wait till the fall tour, because I'm going to New York, Philly, and LA, and I can't wait for that, because I'm interested to see how different each show is going to be.
Totally, and I'm envious of that, because you're not getting just one dimension of it. You're going to see 3, and you saw him at Lala, which gives you an entire new perspective on what you're going to see in these tours as well.
Well, I didn't go to Lala. I used to go to Lala. I did not go to Lala
Oh.
this year. I'm in nursing school, so I don't do anything.
Trust me. My wife's in medicine, so she does nothing. I get it.
It is. I can't wait till it's over. But no, Jim has been to a lot of his concerts though. And there's one member of the group that has been to like, how many concerts has Katie Kern been to? She has been to like every concert. I don't.
She's been to a lot of concerts. Lynn's another person from our group that's been to a lot of concerts. I'm going to Los Angeles, San Diego, in the fall tour, but I was there at the homecoming. I just went to Viva. I went, of course, to both nights of the Pomona show and the summer tour. And, you know, even if he doesn't, when the fall tour comes around, even if he doesn't change up the set list, you can be guaranteed that a song like Alone, that it's got that outro at the end where he does the piano on the produced version. He really changed it up at Lollapalooza and Park West, and he played that at Viva Pomona just recently. And every single time, it's like he's got that mentality of a jazz art musician who just wants to go in and kind of create something in the moment that's a little different than he's done before. And so we've really got that to look forward to, even on similar songs that he's going to, even if he plays the entire song in a similar fashion, it's got those little outros or a little interlude in there, and that he likes to have fun in those moments.
Alone has to be one of my all-time favorite songs. I don't know. I remember hearing that on SoundCloud for the first time right after I saw the audition, and it just felt so separated from everything else on that channel. I don't know. I really, really love that song. I really, really love it.
And I think I've heard you say that about 6 different songs too.
So it's like the pictures, right? Like it's my 16th first favorite picture because I like so many things that he does. Like I stopped saying this is my favorite song. As I used to say, oh, Fading Away was my favorite song, and then I'd hear 10 Years and I'd be like, no, that's my favorite song, and then I'd hear Alone and I'd be like, that's my favorite song. So now I just say they're all my favorite songs, but Alone does have a special place in my heart, just like 10 Years and Fading Away does. I could say that they're maybe my top 3 favorite songs. I don't know. It's hard. It's so hard. It's so hard. It just really is. And then go ahead.
I was going to say it's easier just to give a blanket statement that Alejandro created all of your favorite songs, and that way you can, every time you can be like, this is my favorite because I told you all of his songs are my favorite.
Exactly. Well, it was funny because on my group one day we had like this photo contest, and I was like, you know, just for the picture, the group picture, and I was like, okay, post your favorite photo, and everybody posted like 7 photos, and I was like, okay, this kind of defeats the purpose. Like, if they're all our favorites, we're not going to be able to pick a favorite. So, you know, it made me laugh. And then somebody the other day on Jim's group, I think, posted a meme or something that said, you know, somebody asked what type of music I listen to, and I said Scary Pool Party. And I'm like, that's pretty much sums it up for me.
Well, you know what? He covers so many genres that I think that's fair to say that you have an open mind towards music. Like, I like Scary Pool Party. Done.
End of story. So I wanted to, you know, I sent you a couple songs. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to them. I did. The first one was Cheater. I tried to send you, you know, songs that you might not have heard. I don't know, like, what you've covered on your channel. Well, actually, I do know what you covered on your channel. But Cheater is, you know, one of the first songs I sent, besides Alone or Tonight and Chill Love, which we did talk about. But Cheater, you know, his songwriting for me has always been a thing. He has an ability, unlike anybody I've heard, to tell a story in his music writing and in his lyrics. Like he's telling a story and you're going on this journey with him. Not only through his entire music library, but through his song. And, like, I feel like every time I start to listen to a song, I kind of go on this journey through the story to the end of the song, and it's like this, it transports you to another place where you can connect to things that have happened or things that are happening now. And it's so relatable. Cheetah's also one of the other songs that I can see him doing with an orchestra, which is why I picked it, because 10 Years on American Idol was one of my favorites just because of how it affected him. When I watched him do that song on American Idol with the orchestra, you could see it in his face. Everything. You could see it was everything. It was just everything. It was him playing with people that are so serious about music and just being there and in the moment and just feeling every single beat of that orchestra on that song. Not to mention it has to be cool to have an orchestra playing your song, because who gets that? Very few people. Maybe Fleetwood Mac.
Totally. Well, especially someone like him too, to be such I would definitely attribute, he's not here to judge himself or to defend himself, but he's a music nerd, like 100%. Like, he totally geeks out about music. So the fact that you get to have that opportunity, and you're right, you could see it in his face. It's like everything came together. Even if it was just for one time in his career, you could definitely see it there. But I wanted to talk about Cheater because, first off, thank you for sending me this song, because I'm going to go out on a limb here, and not a blanket statement. I really do think this is my favorite release from him. Now, coming from my background where I listen to a lot of hip hop, I listen to probably way too much hip hop, honestly, and hearing this song in a pair of headphones, I put it on repeat like 10 or 12 times because I couldn't stop listening to it. So I just want to say thank you guys for sending this one to me. Starts out right away, that heavy synthesizer in the beginning. It just drew me in right there. And then he does have that hip hop style in the drums in this one. And again, that was immediately something that I was like caught into. His voice though in this song, singing at that higher pitch, that's probably the best sound in my opinion from him. Something that is just so pleasing to hear. And then one thing about it too, and I know this song came out a year ago, so way before any of the fame. There is this dark vibe that happens all over this song, and it's really hard to explain what it does, but if you've heard the song, if you haven't and you're listening to this, go listen to it on SoundCloud. I'm sure there will be a link to it, but there's just this dark vibe that happens throughout the entire song. It's very haunting, and I don't know, everything about this just became my favorite song from him. Again, 12 times on listen, right after I got the email, I was at the gym, and I was like, oh, I haven't heard this song. And then I couldn't stop listening to it.
Yeah, it is an amazing song. It is, I'm going to say it's one of my favorites. Along with every other song that he does. But what about you, Jim? I know that you're super familiar with all of his music. We've talked about it before, but do you have any thoughts on Cheater in particular? Because I do feel like that song for me, like I said, I can picture the strings and the horns and the orchestra with this song, and just how haunting it truly, truly is.
I'll tell you, I love the combination of kind of the lo-fi sound and the looping piano and that kind of pulsating instrumental outro towards the end. And I remember hearing it for the first time, and it was back in those first few days when I heard the teaser from Idol, and I went on the search, and there was a channel back then called Chill Music 2.0, which disappeared, and then just reappeared just a short while ago, actually. And they had Cheater and Vampire Shade. They both had kind of similar, I guess, pictures, just a still picture while the video was playing in the background. And I was trying to figure out if it was a single or something he put out. But that was one of my first surprises from Alejandro. That's when I realized that he was a lot bigger than walking down an alley playing a guitar. That he really had some chops, and he had some different directions he could go. And this one I just love. It's mood music all the way. And like you said, it's got a narrative value. And even if you take the lyrics out of it, I mean, he does so many change-ups to keep people interested that there's almost like a narrative arc to the song that is just so perfect and pleasing to me.
Yes, it is unbelievable, this song. Along with Alone, out of his alternative music, this is probably, top of the top for me. I love Alone. I do think it kind of, to me, it kind of has this Phantom of the Opera type of thing for me. I don't know. I have to listen to it again. But I get that a lot when I listen to his music. I'm just like, oh, I could see it being this, or I can see it being a movie, or I can see it being, you know, an orchestra, or like I just always see the possibilities for every song he does. So we're going to move on to the 6000000. I wish he would name, at least temporarily, name some of these songs. But one of the songs has like all numbers, and it's like 12 numbers. But this song, I do truly love this song. Also has a very escapist quality in the lyrics. It's the same kind of vibe for me as Alone, the quality of the lyrics in this. The one thing about this song, I do think his voice is very strong. It's funny to me that he ever thought he couldn't sing. And I remember watching Idol, because most people, when they hear him, that they don't know he plays guitar yet. They don't know he plays the piano yet, or that he's been doing it for 4 years, right? So they don't know any of that. But what they hear is his voice. And every single person I've played him for, including, you know, people that work on Broadway and are in the music industry, they always hear his voice and go, wow, like his voice is insane. So it's funny to me that he just doesn't, that he struggled so much with that, you know, like that he wasn't always assured that he had a great voice. But I always feel like this is one of those where he showed off his voice in, and I think the arrangement and the songwriting are always so beautiful with him. The way that he speaks through his music, you know, again, he's just affecting. You know, it's just like an experience every time I listen to him. I could be cleaning my house and having a full-on experience in his music. And it's so everything to me. And I think to a lot of people. I've heard people say that, you know, it's their only way to relieve their stress is to listen to him, or, you know, it's their only outlet for anything.
I can see that, because I think that music in general has that escape feeling, like you said, and I think that I can think of high school, I got bullied, I can think of breakups, things like that. I never escaped to people, or like I've never drank or done drugs before. I never escaped to that stuff, but I always found myself escaping to my record collection and going away and, you know, being mesmerized by what these artists had to say or the feelings that they invoked. And this song in particular, I really like it because it's one of his only songs that I didn't even... You listen to a song so many times, and I still never even really took in all the lyrics. And the reason being is that there's such a vibe happening here. The way the drums fade into the guitar in that intro, like, I probably replayed the first 20 seconds like 7 times when I first heard this, because you go from that acoustic and then the drums just come right in. There's this atmosphere that he creates in this song. And at the same time, even though we have this atmospheric feeling, there's this bass just thumping into your headphones so hard. Like, the production on this was top notch. And that's one thing that I know people get some credit for, but I don't think he'll ever get enough credit for. His mixing and production is so far ahead of so many other people. He also has the benefit that he's just this amazing singer as well. Like, he really is the total package. I actually love that he mixed his vocals, like, it almost seemed like a few decibels under the instruments, because I think he actually wanted the instruments to give the story and to be just as important as everything else. And like, if you go back with that in mind and listen to it, you can actually feel that happening. So I really enjoyed the song. Again, I didn't get a chance to really pay attention to the lyrics because there's just a lot to take in at once. It's one of those songs that were a little bit overwhelming at first, and then the more I listened to it, I kind of, was able to just vibe out on it. But I liked it. His SoundCloud music is way ahead of its time. That's all I got to say.
Oh, I love that. You guys are going to laugh right now, but I'm sitting here, I can hear Cheater in my head. It's still rolling around because we just talked about it, but 6 million, there are indeed 6 zeros after that. I just can't seem to hear it in my head right now. But I remember my initial reaction going over to SoundCloud and finding this little SoundCloud secret, these little gems that we had in here. and there was such a wide variety of different styles. And just in general, I'd say that all the voice criticisms started in Idol, I think, after Hawaii, and I think they were based on Idol only. And if these people had gone over to SoundCloud and listened to some of these songs, maybe that criticism would have died down back at the time. But yeah, and to what you said, Stephen, like he wants his voice to be just another instrument or another piece of percussion, or just on an equal level with the other instruments in the song, and not to stand out necessarily. And I've always loved that about him, because it was kind of a reflection of the Alejandro that we knew when we first met him. We went to SoundCloud and other areas, went to YouTube, and we found these videos of him, touring a year ago. And there he is in the background, humble homie in the background. One time he's wearing a cowboy hat, and he was just happy to be there and just to be a part of the overall production, the song that was going on, and it makes it all the more impressive too that he's actually come out on the stage at Park West, Lollapalooza, and has just owned the stage as the front man, and I'm really proud of him for that.
I had this thought.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I had this thought yesterday as I was listening to, what was I listening to? I think I was listening to Beneath the Skin in my car, and I had this thought that, I know that he's all about love, and I think he really wants love in his life, but I think music is kind of his everything. I think that it's more important to him than almost anything else, maybe besides his family and friends. But, I think music is just his escape. For everything. I think writing and, how he gets, and he said that actually, that, he gets his feelings out in music. So, I don't know, it just occurred to me that, this was probably one of the most important things to him in his life, whereas, I think he would do it regardless of where he was. If he, if they wanted him to change, I think he absolutely would give it up and be like, you know what, I'm just going to go play in a bar. Because, granted, that bar would be packed because now people know who he is, but I absolutely could see him just giving up the fame and giving up everything just to be a serious musician.
Well, and I think we saw that because, he was doing this for 4 years, as American Idol likes to say, as a dishwasher, and he was doing it out of passion and love. And I actually said in my videos that, part of me didn't want him to win American Idol. I wanted him to have the success. I didn't want him to have the contract and the obligations. And I do think you're right. I think that if they wanted him to change, he's got the following now where I don't think he necessarily needed a contract. It does help.
Yeah.
But I wanted him to be able to afford the best equipment and the best production,
right,
and the best studio time, to be able to have all of those things at his disposal to be able to create. But a lot of the music that I listen to comes from a DIY space where you're not signing record labels and you're not signing contracts, and you're still able to get your music out there and exposed. And I feel like a lot of hip hop artists these days, are trying to go against that grain as well. There are even pop artists. There's a lot coming out now about not owning your own masters to your own records and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, RIP, but Nipsey Hussle from LA was really big on this in hip hop and black culture, where he didn't think that hip hop artists should be selling all of their work to these record labels to make money off of them. So Nipsey Hussle was one of the only rappers that were big that owned every single thing he ever did. And I definitely worried about that at first with Alejandro because he creates so much. Yeah. I was worried that, he's going to create, and he's only going to get a portion of the proceeds that come from those songs. Because I don't know how much you guys do know about music revenue and streaming services, but they don't make anything off of that. They make money off of the albums and the tours. So I was really excited to see him announce that tour right away, because I knew that, when you're rooting for the underdog, I want him to get paid. When I saw him with those Gucci shoes on, I was like, okay, he's getting, he's finally getting what he deserves after all this time. This music is so beautiful. So many fans love it. And I was worried that those contracts were going to somehow mess that up. But I think you're right. I think at the end of the day, he could just give everything up and still play this music for just out of love and be just as happy with it.
Yeah, I think that, so my theory about American Idol is, I did want him to win until like the last day. And then I was like, wait, can I really see him singing for Disney for a year? I don't think I can see that. Because I think that they would want him to do what they want him to do. And he would be like, no, I don't want to do that. But my theory is that he was signed before the show ended. I think that they knew he wasn't going to win. Lane Hardy, I have nothing against the other idols. I really, really don't. I think they're all amazing singers. I think that they are a specific type of singer. They're pop singers. And Lane Hardy was the perfect representation for American Idol. He was. Alejandro was never that kind of artist. And I think that stood out as the show went on. It was like, okay, you can put him in all these fancy clothes, but at the end of the day, he's going to get up and do his own stuff, and it's going to mean more to people than any cover that he could do. Because they've heard his original music, and they know what it's like. And, it's not this. And not that that is bad. That is fine. We need singers. People like pop music. I'm all about it. But on the last day, I really started to consider, was he already signed before the show ended? Or at least in negotiations? Because it was not even a day after that they announced the tour. And you kind of have to have all that, maybe not the record label signed, but he was definitely in negotiations for management. He was definitely in negotiations for his talent agent. Those things happened within a week. There's no way you can negotiate that fast. It's just a lot. So, and I don't think he has a typical contract that most idols have when they get off the show. Lane's doing, movies. He has to do a movie about his life. He has to do a certain number of appearances. And you notice, Alejandro is not at that, except for the Museum of Flight show in Seattle. He's not been at anything as far as I know of.
No, and I think that's important because I've heard, everything on the internet, you can't believe it, but I've heard horror stories about these American Idol contracts. They have, unrealistic expectations of these artists, and they really make you be a certain type of way. And I feel like that's the last thing Alejandro would have been able to do just because of his originality, his uniqueness, his social presence. I just feel like that would have never worked for him. In fact, I think we would have seen more middle fingers because I think he would have been upset. I think he would have been upset about his situation. He would have been thankful because there is a lot of money, fame, fortune, things like that. But everyone knows that that's not everything.
Right.
And when you're an artist like him and you really do speak through your music, he would have had a really hard time adjusting to that.
I think he would have walked away, honestly. I think if he had won, he would not have taken it. I think he would have been like...
Totally.
I think he would have walked away. I don't think it was the kind of music he wanted to do. I think he recognized that very early, although I think he's grateful to American Idol because they did get him out there. I mean, he is out there. For better or for worse now, he has a massive following and people that adore every single thing he does. And that wouldn't have happened without them. However, I don't think that he would have... I can't see him going from Disney to Disney doing shows for Disney. What, is he going to sing Disney songs? What does that look like for Alejandro? I don't think it's possible.